Hello, welcome to Kinda Keto. Thanks for joining me. On today's video, I'm going to make that second donut recipe I promised you. It's going to be a low-carb pumpkin donuts, and it's from Low Carb Yum, which I will leave a link to, I guess if it comes out good. So follow along with me and see how it comes out. Here are the ingredients you're going to need for these low-carb pumpkin donuts. I've got some almond flour, coconut flour, salt, baking powder. She has individual spices, but I'm just going to use a pumpkin pie spice blend. Some xanthan gum. Remember, there's no M in there. It's xanthan, not xanthum. Got some unsweetened almond milk. Got your sweetener blend. This is something I haven't tried before. It's a Splenda, not just Splenda, but a Splenda, this brand, Magic Baker. You got your pumpkin. Remember last year we couldn't find pumpkin, or it was really hard to find. So you want pure pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. Got some coconut oil and your 3 large eggs. And we're going to get to making some donuts. A word about this Splenda mix, because I haven't tried it before, but it is a nice mix. It's good for baking, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio for sugar. What I like about it, or what I think I'm going to like about it, is it does have a mix of erythritol, allulose, and stevia. Because certain sweeteners in baking can crystallize, so there's that issue. And the erythritol straight up can have that cooling effect people talk about. So this nice little mix, it should take a lot of that away. We're going to find out.
To see me measuring out every little thing, I am sifting together all the dry ingredients, which I will read off to you from her recipe. I've got 1 1/4 cups of the flour, 1/4 cup of the coconut flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. She has all her spices separate, but I've got the pumpkin pie spice, so I'm throwing in 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And this is interesting. The xanthan gum is optional, but recommended. And I tell you, once you buy one, you will find uses for it once you buy a little bag. And the xanthan gum, yeah, I got this just at Walmart. You don't have to get a huge bag. It's $4.28, so it's not like it's a $20 bag. And you use it for gravies. And they do see a lot of baking goods and bread items that have it. So it's going to broaden your horizons if you do get some. So if a recipe calls for it, I would try not skipping it. Alrighty, and so it was a good idea to sift your ingredients. Actually, her recipe specifically says to sift. Especially in baking, you don't want any large clumps. And myself, I keep, if I'm making bread items and I'm using the flour, I keep my almond flour in the refrigerator. And sometimes the freezer if I get it at Sam's and get it for a good price. Alrighty, that looks pretty.
Now for our wet ingredients, we're going to start off in a separate bowl with coconut oil, and it didn't say to melt it, but I've seen other recipes where you melt the coconut oil first and then measure it out when you're baking. So this is 2 tablespoons. Just slightly, did like 20 seconds. Whoops, a little much. Okay, 2 tablespoons of that. 2 tablespoons of the unsweetened almond milk. Good thing I was to keep this on hand. Okie dokie. Okay. Half a cup of the sweetener that we're going to use. And again, I'm using Splenda Magic Baker. Half a cup. And then we got our gorgeous pumpkin puree. That's going to be a whole cup. I'm trying to remember. I think last year we had trouble finding pumpkin. I do believe we were having issues with that. When they had the supply issues for all sorts of weird things. I don't think I made a lot of stuff last year. Well, plus I was only on my journey not too long, so I really didn't want to do too much baking. Okay, and I'm going to get the eggs. All right, and lastly, 3 eggs. Some recipes have you do 1 egg at a time and mix, and 1 egg at a time. This doesn't say that, so We're all going in the pool, all together now. All right, I'm just doing the hand blender. I didn't think I need to bring out my big old KitchenAid, so we'll just try it with this. Now you're going to stir your dry ingredients into your wet mixture. All right, gave it a good little mix. And stopped one, scraped it down, finished beating it up, and now finished beating up. It was bad pumpkin. Alrighty, so I'm happy that this recipe also, like my apple donut recipe that I did, uses the bag idea, either the piping bag or just use a Ziploc bag, and then you can kind of just squeeze your batter into your donut pans. So I've got my oven preheating to 350 while I pour this in the bag, and be right back. So a little tip if you're going to try and do the piping bag idea for it to keep falling over in the beginning, get yourself a big cup, any kind of big cup, and put your Ziploc bag in the cup, and then you can control it. It's not going to fall over and all that, or at least to get it started, but I was able to do the whole thing like that. All right, and then kind of squish it down toward the center. Leave yourself your little hole. Okay, when I'm finished doing all the piping, I just use this little, I think it's a frosting spatula, and sort of smoothed them out a little bit. This recipe says it calls for 7 large donuts. I kind of started going with 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but then I decided to fill up a few others a little bit better. I filled it up, hopefully not too much. Usually you're only supposed to fill it up like 3/4 of the way. So we'll see what's going to happen. So I'm going to put it in the oven now at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. All right, so here are the pumpkin donuts without any toppings, just to show you before I top it. My husband already snagged one without anything extra on it, and he said it was very good. I haven't tried it yet. And I thought they come out of the pan really easily. They rose nice. Seems like it has a nice texture, for sure. And it looks a lot better than when I put it in the pan. Okay, in her recipe, she does the cinnamon sugar topping on the pumpkin donuts, which is just brushing the top with butter and doing a mixture of swerve or Lakanto granular sugar substitute and cinnamon and dipping the donuts in that. If you do it that way, you do have to do it while they're still a little warm, so it'll stick better. However, I just did that with the apple cider donuts, and I want to try something different. So I found this recipe for maple cream cheese glaze by Keto Cooking Christian, and I will also leave a link to that. And all I need for that is some cream cheese, some heavy whipping cream, some confectioner's sugar, vanilla, and I just happen to have maple extract on hand. And I wondered what else I could use it for, and now I have a new recipe for it, and a little hot water. So let's see how that comes together. All right, so I have my softened cream cheese, and that is 1/4 cup, otherwise known as 2 ounces. If it's not out long enough, you can zap it like 10 seconds at a time in the microwave, but you do not want to melt it. So we got the cream cheese, and it's just 3 to 4 tablespoons of the powdered sugar substitute. I just did 3. Try to scale back a little bit on the sweetness. So I've got 3 tablespoons in there. I've got my heavy whipping cream. This is going to be 1 tablespoon. And 1 tablespoon hot water as needed. So I'm going to put that in. Had some on the stove there. I'm just going to put the 1 in for now until we mix everything together. All right, just a 1/4 teaspoon of both the maple extract and the vanilla. If you don't have maple, I'm sure it's just fine without any kind of cream cheese glaze. You know, as long as you got the powdered sugar and the cream cheese, that's pretty much all you need, I think. Okay, I got my pure vanilla, not my imitation. Ooh. All right, there's a little much. But you can smell the maple. I thought I was going to use a hand mixer, but I think that would be too small for that. So I'm just going to mix it up with my little little whisk and see how it comes together. Okay, just whisked up my glaze, so that's all done. Got the donuts, got a cookie sheet with a wire rack, and I have some parchment paper or wax paper underneath just to catch some of the drippings there. Put a glove on just in case I get all messy. If you're going to do the glaze, you do have to wait for it to be completely, the donuts to be completely cooled. So let's see what happens. Alrighty. Maybe I should make sure I have a, in case I lose it, in case I lose my donut. There we go. Alrighty, so I did dip them, and then after I dipped all of them, I went back with a spoon and sort of put a little extra glaze on any bare spots, you know, like where your finger was when you took it out of the bowl. And I'm just going to give that a little chance to set up, but otherwise, it looked pretty cool. All right, there's my pumpkin donut with the maple cream cheese glaze. And apparently I didn't have the cream cheese maybe soft enough, so I did have a few little lumps in there, but I think it's going to taste just fine. So it may not be the prettiest, but I think it's going to taste good. We'll find out in a minute. All right, finally taste test time. Couldn't do it right away, kind of wanted to wait for the glaze to set up a little bit. Was a little sticky there for a while, so I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be sticky. I guess I'm more of a frosting girl than a glaze girl. So here's my donut, and it's set up nicely, and I'm having it with my little, decided to do a little apple tea, the cinnamon apple spice tea that I got for those apple spice donuts, and at Walmart $2.98. I don't think you can get it year round, so if you want that, and if you're going to do coffee this time of year, and want the sweetened stuff, there's nut pods. And they have a pumpkin spice limited edition flavor. So, something to think about. All right, bottoms up. Good texture also. Definitely taste of pumpkin. Okay, nice consistency. A little heft to it. Taste the pumpkin for sure. I do like that glaze. Like I said, mine didn't come out as smooth as it probably should have, but it tastes really good. And not falling apart. Not a lot of crumbs. One more check. I think we are 2 for 2 for low-carb pumpkin donuts. And now for the macros, if you're interested. I got to put my specs on for that. Haha. All right, so for these low-carb, sugar-free, keto pumpkin donuts by Low Carb Yum, her recipe says 7 large donuts. Now, I am convinced that my silicone pans, my little molds, must be a lot smaller. So I got 9 donuts out of mine. So for 9 donuts, I revamped the macros. It's 6 grams of protein, 13 grams of fat, 166 calories, and 4 grams of net carbs. That's just for the donut, because that was not her glaze. That was somebody else's glaze. And for the glaze, I did the whole batch, all the ingredients in Carb Manager, and for the whole batch, it was 2 gram net carbs. So divide that by 9 donuts. So pretty much negligible on that. So there's your macros. I hope you like those 2 experiments. So those are 2 kind of donuts you can enjoy in the fall. Just like make 1 batch a year if you want, you know, just so you can still feel like you're in the swing of the season. You know, baking with your children is really good. I just enjoy it myself, baking, and listen to music in the background. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and leave me a comment. Tell me if you liked the idea, or if you liked my presentation, or you didn't, but be kind. All right, until next time, I'm Donna with Kinda Keto. Bye.